Kirby James, 3rd Dan black belt at Taekwon Do and Hapkido. And welcome to Power Breaking for Taekwon Do black belts. This is episode 2 of our Power Breaking for Black Belts series. In this edition, I want to talk about physical conditioning. I'm all sweaty. I just came out of a class. There's a class going on now. And in the months and years it takes us to get ready for our black belt test, that's a big part. But I want to say something more. Really, there's 3 things I want to talk about in terms of physical conditioning. Number 1 is your overall physical conditioning, sure, but also the timing, and that's important. Second thing I want to talk about is actually preparing your hand. And I've got quite a bit to tell you about that, and actually some practice equipment that we make actually for preparing for your power break. And then the 3rd thing I want to talk about is actually specific training for the kind of motion that you're going to make for power breaking, because it's in some ways not like anything you've done so far. When it comes to preparing yourself for your test day, in terms of your physical conditioning, what I recommend is you work backwards. So let's say your test was on Saturday, June 12th. That's actually the day when you want to be at your peak performance. What is peak performance? Well, you know, whether you're under the age of 10, you're a teenager, or you're an adult, we all have peak for ourselves. But peak is when you're at your strongest, your injuries or your soreness is at the least, and your diet, your rest, everything is just about as good as you can be. And so here's the thing, you do not want to train really hard right to the last minute because you want to show up at your test day refreshed. So how I recommend you do this is I would start 3 months at least before your test. If it's shorter than that, well, just do the math. And what you're looking to do is to look at all the days you're going to train between now and the test. And what you want to see is that it makes sense. If you're training 7 days a week, your body isn't going to be doing very well. You need time to allow your body to repair itself. Now, when you look at the other part of this episode that talks about training your fist to get ready to hit concrete or wood, that's even more important. You have to really, really think this through. So to peak, look at tapering off your exercise about a week before the test, maybe even 2 weeks. At 2 weeks before the test, you should be at about 90 to 95% of your readiness. And then just keep yourself moving, limber, stretched out. Make sure that you stay active, but that you're not pushing really hard. The second part of the physical training actually is for your hand. Now think about this. A marathoner, somebody who runs even 10K, they don't get off the couch one day, pick themselves up, go and run it, do an awesome job, and come home without anything being sore. The pounding that comes with running, that physical stamping, puts a lot of pressure on your joints, stresses your bones, your ligaments, your tendons, and your muscles. Well, your hand's no different. And quite frankly, unless you're already a first-hand black belt, you have never used your hand at one of our tests to break something. So how do you get ready for that? If you've already got your first hand black belt and you're going for your second, you're going to get more wood, or if you've had concrete, you're going to get more concrete. What we recommend is actually preparing your hand by beginning to get it used to the stress of hitting something. If you don't prepare your hand properly, you're going to break it or at least bruise it badly. So for that, we use a very sophisticated piece of equipment. Are you ready? Yeah, it's a 2x4. But what we do with this 2x4 is a little bit different. What we do is we put cuts into the 2x4. And why do we do this? It gives us some flex. If you just go and smack a piece of wood, I mean, you're smacking a piece of wood. By putting cuts in it, it gives a little bit of flex. And what that allows us to do is to strike it without starting to injure our hand. Well, in the weeks that lead up to your test, really at a first hand level, you should probably be starting about 6 weeks before your test. And really what we're looking for you to do is we're looking for you to take the wood, and we're looking to get you to strike it. And we're looking to get you to strike it only about 30% power and often. And it goes something like this. Now, when I start to do that, I'm not just doing it with any shape of hand. What I'm doing is I don't have fingernails in preparation for this. You cut your fingernails off and you need to roll your fingers into your palm as tight as you can. And see how white my knuckles are? Then you lock the edge over with your thumb and it makes it into a tight unit. You do this before you start to hit, and then you begin. And I'm not doing that really hard. That's like 20-25% power maximum. The purpose is to subject your hand to stress. And the stress starts to make additional calcium deposits and get your hand ready. As you go through the weeks and weeks prior to your test, you start to slow down the frequency, but increase the power a little bit, so it's more like this. Next thing for you to pay attention to, never, ever hit this more than 50%, 60% at most. And the reason is really simple. It's what's underneath it. You see, this board will flex. We've shown you that already. The thing that's underneath the board is not. And if you wind up and smack this board with anything like 75% power or more, the floor is not going to move. And if you strike something that hard, you can damage your shoulder, your elbow, your wrist, your hand. This is not why we're recommending that you do this technique. So be sure, never ever strike these boards really hard. How long do you do this? Well, realistically, like anybody training for a major event, you have to work backwards from the day of your event. Let's say your test was Saturday, June 12th. There's no way you should be smacking something like this or anything else in the last week to 10 days. Let your hand heal. Get strong. There's no need to abuse it right to the last minute, because what's going to happen is you're going to show up at your test day injured and your hand sore and tender. That's just makes no sense whatsoever. So that's the hand preparation portion of this. Do it carefully. Watch this segment again and again. Make sure that you're hitting it hard enough to stress your hand, but not so hard as to injure yourself. Then you want your hand to recover from that stress. The recovery part, and the faster you can recover, then your hand's going to get tougher even faster. Here's where diet and sleep and possibly some other techniques can help you. So diet. Make sure that you have a very balanced diet. Kids lay off the pizza and the sugar. You need to look at this like an athlete training for the Olympics and what's going to help my hand heal fastest. Depending on the way your diet is, look up stuff online and see how you might be able to eat things differently or even drink some things differently to help you recover faster. The second thing to think about when it comes to getting yourself ready is what happens if I have a bad day and I hit a little too hard and my hand's sore? Well, there's two principles that come out of medicine and healthcare. For things that are really, really sore right away, ice will help to reduce some inflammation. But as a general rule, heat, gentle heating, will help to loosen things up. And really what we're looking to do is to stimulate recovery. The Grand Master, whenever you would see somebody hurt their hand, he would always have us do this up in the air because you're really trying to invigorate the hand and get the blood flow going. And then when it comes to rest, look, we all have busy lives, and this period where you're going for your first, second, whatever Dan, you've been working towards it for years. In the last few months, before you go up to your test, please pay extra attention to your sleep cycle. If you get more sleep in and you do a better job of sleeping, then it gives your body a chance to recover. And given all the training you're doing, your patterns, your one step, preparing your hand, preparing your arm, preparing your body, you need that time to help yourself get ready. Now it's time to talk about something else, which is strengthening your hand, strengthening your forearm, your upper arm, and then we'll move on in the last segment to strengthening your whole torso. Personally, I use either a tennis ball, a rubber ball, or one of those spring-loaded hand strengthener things because you want your hand to get stronger so you can make an incredibly tight and powerful fist. The muscle that we really rely on a lot for power breaking is called your tricep. It's on the back of the arm. And why that's important, as you'll see in episode 3 on mechanics, is that as you break, you lead with your elbow. If you want to be successful breaking in your power break, leading with your elbow and then snapping your hand at the end is one of the key ingredients to a successful power break. To do that, your tricep muscle on the back of your arm needs to get stronger. And to do that, you have to do a tricep push. And it goes something like this. You push straight up. There's lots of ways to do this. I do it with a dumbbell. You can do it with 2 hands for more safety, to be symmetrical. But the idea here is you want this muscle here to get a lot stronger. It's also one of the muscles we use when we're doing push-ups that you don't like. So when it comes to training with dumbbells, a couple of rules, especially if you're younger. Number 1, make sure that your parents know you're doing this and get some help to do it safely. Number 2, as you're doing your dumbbell training, start with lighter weights and go to heavier. Otherwise, you're going to injure your arm. Wow, you're getting ready for your black belt test. Don't injure yourself while you're training. And number 3, understand how to do this properly. So in this segment, what I want to show you is the importance of a third aspect of training, physical training for your power break, that a lot of people don't think of or do. And what this is to teach you to prepare your core. I said at the beginning of this episode that your movement to do a power break is unlike anything that you do any other time. I mean, you think about all the breaks you've done as a color belt, it's always been your foot. And even with a nada bond, you're spinning, or with a roundhouse or a side kick. Yes, there's twisting motion, but not so much. This is the first time you're going to be asked to break where you have to twist your whole torso. And to do that, we have to understand the process of movement. When you do a power break is that you end up basically in a great big front stance. Some people shorten up the back foot, but you're more or less in a front stance. And you're going to go from a landmark position here, you'll see that in the execution episode, and then you're going to rise up, and you're going to rise more or less like this. Well, there's a piece of equipment I recommend using, which is surgical tubing on a handle. And the reason I like this is because I get to practice my range of motion and then twist. And as I twist, this is getting harder. It's like, and more and more and more and more power. And then you're able to do reps, just like we did with the dumbbells. Doing frequent training, just like we did in the episode about strengthening your hand. And this piece of equipment seems simple, but wow, does it ever impact your core. A couple of pieces of advice. Number one, go slow and don't do it too hard right out of the gate. You're gonna be sore for days if you do this too hard and too fast. The other thing is to make sure that you train the same way I've recommended with the dumbbells or any other weights. Do a certain number of repetitions and then do a certain number of sets. The other thing is always do it with your other hand too, because it doesn't make sense just to do one side. You're gonna make your back unbalanced. It's not good. So what I'm recommending is you do it the other way too, so that I'm getting the same motion to go up and down, but I'm pulling. And this pull this way helps increase the strength of my core, and having a strong core and including really powerful twisting as part of your power break is going to increase the chances of breaking the first time and not hurting your hand. So that's what my thoughts are on physical preparation for your black belt test. Go to class, train hard, but first, keep your eye on when your test is and understand your body. Don't overtrain. If you have injuries, take care of them, because you can always wait 6 months. If you take special care, you may not have to. Don't overtrain too soon, too hard, too fast. Secondly, prepare your hand. Now, when it comes to building that wooden block that we showed you, get somebody who really knows what they're doing with, power saws, because that can be a really dangerous activity. It's like a kickback and throw the board back, you'd be badly injured. So get somebody who understands power tools to help you. And we cut about 2/3 of the way down the 2x4. And then thirdly, start to prepare your whole body, but specifically training your hand, your upper arm, your shoulders, and your core for the specific kind of movement that we're going to show you in the next episode on execution. When you add it all up, the thing to keep in mind is that we're looking for Taekwon Do to be a part of your everyday life. And for that to be true, being physical and keeping in shape, everywhere in the world, we recognize that being in good shape helps you as you go from your teens to your 20s, and your 20s to your 40s, and from your 40s to your 60s. This is the way to a healthy and happy and long life. So stay with us, and remember, your power break is part of your black belt test. It is not the whole test. Thanks very much. We'll see you again soon.